G'day YouTube, JB from Oz here. I'm not sure how you feel about this format, but it gives me a chance to actually talk to you on the way home and the otherwise 10 minutes of boring silence that I would have. First off, as a quick workshop update, I've done some laser cutting, and these are a prototype of shrink rollers in the red plastic. This one here is a 3/16 per foot with the graduations of the 16ths on one side, 32nds and 64ths on the other side. And this one is shrink to fit 1/8 to a foot with 16ths, 8ths, 64ths and 32nds on the other side. One for cast and one for alley, I believe. Now, one of the reasons I've made these is, or perhaps one of the things to note, is that this is actually based on, can you see it there? Artwork I was able to download direct from Starrett, including the engraved pathing. So the shrink to fit 3/16 is a number C375 number 4R graduation Starrett, based on the steel Starrett tempered ruler. The other one being number C370 number 4R 3RAC Starrett. That's the shrink 1/8 inch to a foot. Now, having grown up in the graphic arts industry, usually there's the copyright issue. You can't reproduce something that somebody else has done, and there's a copyright inherent in that work. So the legality of this would suggest to me that I shouldn't sell these. So I haven't got them listed on the Etsy store at this stage. The reality of my Etsy store is I've had some long-suffering customers who placed orders with me for scraper guides, and I have been incredibly remiss there. I've tried to keep in touch to let them know that I am eventually going to get there, but I haven't yet got there as far as getting their stuff shipped. So my plan is to throw a couple of these in to say sorry for the delays. But let me know, what are your thoughts? That's somebody else's commercial product. You can pay $100 and buy a steel one. It's a Starrett product, and I wouldn't really want to be making money off a product that they would buy or sell. But is their copyright persistent over such a long time? And if I was to have these as giveaways or something, what would be people's thoughts? This leads me on to another subject of some concern. You may remember a while back, I assisted Dad to purchase a Shoreline mill from east coast of Australia. It's about 3,500 to 4,000 miles away, quite a distance. So I got a quote for shipping based on the weight that the seller suggested the item was and the size of the crate that they crated it up in. And he did an awesome job crating, as you would have seen. I'll link to the video up here. But in crating up that box and preparing it for shipping, I got some quotes, and I ended up using a local freight forwarder. They've got a web-based store. You jump on, you say postcode here to postcode there, whether you need tail lifts at each end, size of the package, and then they'll give you a range of couriers that'll pick it up, or freight forwarders, freight companies that'll pick it up. Now, this item was over 25 kilos, and when you do the quote, there's a warning message that comes up which says this needs to be on a forkliftable skid, pallet or a crate. Down further in the conditions, they say if this is engine parts or gearboxes or whatever, it cannot be loose on a pallet, it must be in a forkliftable crate. And they specifically make that distinction about there being a forkliftable crate. I saw this as I was preparing to book the pickup, and initially I was like, I'm going to have to get this guy to put this on a forkliftable something. And then I'm like, well, hang on. No, it doesn't say forkliftable crate. It says crate or pallet or forkliftable skid. And then later on they talk about forkliftable crates as a different thing. So, okay. So I didn't think much more of that at that stage. Now I was organising the pickup from the seller to deliver to Dad. So I was kind of like a third party in all this. Booked the freight, no worries. The freight was picked up. We emailed through a address slip. They put it on the box, got picked up and arrived sometime later. Now I didn't twig straight away, but Dad mentioned that it arrived on a pallet. And I'm like, what? That's not what I would have thought. Anyway, about a month later, with no warning, $460 was debited from my account. And there was no email, nothing, just money disappeared. Now the original freight on this item was $170, as quoted. I went to follow up on this payment, and the first hurdle I hit was there was no way to talk to the accounts team. The only communication method that they had was via email. So you send an email and you wait. And I rang the local office and spoke to a nice lady there, and she's like, oh yeah, that's all we can do as well. We can only just send them an email. And I said, well, here's the thing. We've got a package that was this big, it was this much weight, this is what we're quoted, this is what we paid. I'm now being charged this extra money. Why? What's the justification for it? She couldn't tell me. A week went by and I hadn't heard back from them, so I lodged a complaint with PayPal to say, look, I've tried to approach the shipper and they've not come back to me. And I also went and looked at the Australian Consumer CCP, what is it? Consumer Protection. And they talk on this website about what your rights as a consumer are. And they have this exception there. It says, except for freight, there is no consumer protection on freight. So that was a bit of a red flag as well. I sent another couple of emails because I still was without this money and I had bills that I had budgeted to pay, and an unexpected amount coming out was a bit of a worry. So eventually I get an email back saying, oh yeah, no, we've had a look at it and we put it on a pallet and we've charged you for the weight and the size of the pallet. Okay. All right. And the reason we've done this is because of occupational health and safety. We do this the whole way through the process. It's not just at one spot or another spot. We insist that your item must be pick-upable by a forklift because that's the way we have to roll. And so, again, because I'm doing this over email, it's very difficult to have a conversation with somebody. But I put out fairly clearly, and I'll put some of the documentation towards the end of this video, and said, look, I understand that. So if you have this occupational health and safety regulation the whole way through your freight, why did you pick it up in the first place? If you couldn't have even picked it up without breaching these regulations, surely you shouldn't have picked it up and just cancelled me a $30 cancelled pickup charge, as opposed to a $460 excess freight charge. In the wording that's come back from the accounts department, they have a paragraph which details that your package must be able to be picked up by a forklift at all stages through shipment, and this is a requirement. And the wording there is quite different, and for me it was very clear. There was no option other than to put a crate with some sort of lifting lugs or something like that under it, so that they could in fact lift it up with a forklift. And I made the point that if you can present that to me in an email succinctly and clearly that gets the message across unambiguously, why wouldn't you do the same message on your website where people are placing their booking? Elsewhere in the email, she also made mention that a number of people have been charged these excess charges because they haven't done this action. They haven't put their items on a forkliftable pallet. Sorry, in a forkliftable crate. So here I'm thinking they've got a situation where they've charged other customers in exactly the same way they've charged me. in situations where their customers are not expecting it. If you're in the business of servicing customers, would you not ask the question why that is, and maybe take some feedback as to how to make sure that doesn't happen again? So I fed back to them and said, look, if you use this paragraph that you just sent me in an email, I would have been able to clearly understand there was going to be some additional charges and make some preparations before I even booked my pickup. By the time you picked it up, sent it halfway across the country, dropped it off at my door, it's too late for me to do anything about. You've wrapped me into a situation that I have no real choice over because of your ambiguity in your document. Now, the freight company is kind of a law unto themselves in this way. They have this list of conditions that you have to agree to and all these additional charges that you've got to pay. And like all of these modern agreements, you basically have to just sign your ass away and say, yep, sure, no thing, I'll just pay that. But there is the point at which a contract in ambiguity by law is meant to be judged in preference not of the writer but of the person who is subject to that contract. So under law, my rights, where there is ambiguity in their contract that they've written up and required me to adhere to, that under law it would be found in my favour that, you know, your contract doesn't cover this situation because it was ambiguous. So I made that legal point back as well. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm going on some information that was given to me by a friend of mine. Obviously, you know, highly valuable legal advice. But I looked it up. I had a bit of a squiz through the Guracle, and there, sure enough, here, I'll list it for you, is the coverage under law of contract, which states that, yeah, as I said, that they should find in my favour based on ambiguity. Eventually I got a letter back from the CEO saying, yeah, nah, don't agree, piss off, I'm not going to pay you any money. And so I thought, here we go, I've just done $460, out the money, out the however many hours I spent trying to get through to them and talk about it, out the stress of having this money just suddenly disappear, and really quite upset by the whole thing. Now, because I'd arranged this for Dad and I didn't want to involve him in this scenario, I was also trying to essentially keep this private from him and not involve him. So in the end, when I started sniffing around looking for the crate and taking measurements off the crate, he started asking questions. Why are you measuring this up? What are you doing here? And it's like, well, I just need to make sure that this is the size and this is everything. And that's when he said to me, oh yeah, it did arrive on a pallet. It was strapped on a pallet. So I'm like, So that's when it clicked to me, because I hadn't actually received it. Dad received it. He's working in his workshop and I'm around the corner. I've arranged it, it's arrived, I come back, there's this crate. There's no sign of the pallet anywhere. I'm thinking, you know, what the hell? They've billed us for the wrong shipment. No, they'd actually billed us for the crate, for the box on it, all strapped to it. So somebody at the depot has decided in their wisdom to find a nice big crate, full size, and strap it on there and adjust the billing accordingly. So I guess if you're a mining company, you don't really give a shit. The money just gets paid. And if you're some other big corporate, you don't really see it. It's just kind of like reconciliation. The office lady doesn't come down and check to see if it really was a 500 kilogram package when it was only a 25 kilogram box. But, you know, I don't deal in freight every day. And this is one of the traps I'm just trying to alert you to, is that it can fuck you over pretty bad. What was $170 quoted, including a tail lift pickup at both ends, because, you know, that's what they say. If it's over this much, you've got to allow a pallet trolley or whatever. Or, I mean, a fridge trolley would have done the job. It's only bloody 40 kilos. What are people these days? Weak as piss? Anyway, I'm getting off track. So, I don't know freight. I don't know this is the way they work. I don't know that they need to be able to forklift these things around, because they couldn't just lift a box onto a pair of forks from one side and then lift it onto a truck. You know, the stupidity of it all. Anyway, So instead of being $170 for this shipment as quoted, they were wanting to charge an additional $460. That's $630 for a 45 kilo package from one side of Australia to the other. Now, if I'd been quoted that up front, we would have been able to say, look, yeah, no, we're going to make alternative arrangements, because I had somebody flying by plane the next day who could just carry it across with bloody plane luggage for 45 kilos. And that would have been cheaper than that. And I would have had it the next day instead of waiting 2 weeks for it to come across the bloody country. But anyway, so in summary, I don't actually have a problem with Transdirect. Their customer service could be better. They could inform us better. I've had a number of shipments that they've previously done for me. It's been seamless. They've just arrived when it said it's arrived. It's cost what it's meant to be costing, but it's the one time that burns you, hey? To be charged an additional 300% on top of what I was quoted, it just about, heart attack central. So be aware. The fine print. Freight companies are not required. You don't have any consumer protection from freight companies under Australian law. If they say they might charge you extra, they probably are going to charge you extra. Read the fine print. Even if they don't clearly say your crate needs to be on a forkliftable pallet or a skid, fucking put it on a skid anyway, just because at least that way you can control that it's a couple of bits of 2x4 underneath that they can get a forklift under, as opposed to a pallet 4 times the size that ends up getting you charged by cubic meterage for a 460 kilogram parcel as opposed to a 40 kilogram one. Or just, I don't know, let somebody local have it next time. So anyway, I lost all hope of getting my money back, and I kind of lost a lot of faith with Transdirect. In the interim, I jumped on their Facebook page and found a whole pile of 1-star reviews, which suggested that there are other people out there who have had issues with the company. Certainly trying to interact with their accounts department was not the fun experience that otherwise might have been. The silver lining on that cloud, however, is PayPal. After I'd received a email forwarded from the MD of Transdirect saying that I had no claim to the funds and that they weren't going to refund me, a couple of days later I had an email in my inbox from the PayPal team. As a matter of course, I'm sure that they would have sent a similar email contacting Transdirect and also not received any response in the time frame, which from what I can understand, you have one opportunity to respond to a PayPal investigation. If they haven't responded, they would have looked at the facts on the file, which include what I had said, what I had asked for, what I'd shipped, what I'd quoted, what I'd received, and the ambiguity in their contract and the nature in which it was conducted, and they refunded me. I got a full refund of the second charge, and that was the last I heard from PayPal, and I haven't heard from Transdirect yet either. I have removed my card from Transdirect's automatic charge because that's how they were able to charge me last time. It's just debit my card because it had to be linked on file for them to charge. So hopefully that has stopped any further charges being charged to my account. It certainly bring to a close, I guess, without too much damage, my situation. Obviously I wasn't compensated for the time and anguish, white fella problem, that it caused trying to follow up and get my money back. But I did get my money back, so there you go. If you fail to get money back through Transdirect, try PayPal. If they've done you wrong, they should actually do something on your behalf. That's my experience anyway. So, yeah, that's my rant about freight. Transdirect Debit. straight from your account. But anyway, back to point one. What are your thoughts on these? Should they be something I sell to some people, give them away as gifts? Anybody who's doing any kind of casting will know that knowing the shrink rate and being able to build patterns to that shrink rate is a handy thing. Should I just have them as a JB from Oz giveaway? Down below, let us know what your thoughts are. Oh, by the way, Minnie made it home without a break again. She is fixed. And that's me done. Have a good day. Catch you next time, guys.